Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to your 0 point installment. I've been waiting for this, waiting to be allowed, so to speak, to record this for you. I think it was just supposed to be this week because there's a lot of things going on. There have been a lot of things going on that are kind of in my mind that I would like to share with you, but I'm also aware that I just need to let the cards do the work and just tell you what you need to know. Oh, what's falling out? I was going to say, is this the tower? Because the tower keeps falling out. It's the high priestess. So, this is the highest, best possible information. And yes, speaking to this idea of what's been moving through me at the moment is this idea of the divine sovereign feminine, or what I would call just the sovereign feminine, but this idea of the siren going past, just to make sure we realize how important it is that this sovereign feminine idea, right? This is the shift. And this is the most important thing that I've shared since I first came on to YouTube over 10 years ago, with this sort of divine feminine, divine masculine thing, which didn't really exist then. That was part of my service, and this is the extension of that, which is the sovereign divine self. So really, it's not that we're seeking to connect with the divine and to allow that to be us. It's that we are the divine, and we are really working through the individuated sovereign self. And this is what we've always been doing in this space. But I did have the realization that there's a whole swathe of people that are here engaging with this content that aren't really engaging directly with me, that I haven't been serving to the best of my ability, because I've been essentially helping and healing too much, if that makes sense, and not focusing on this idea of sovereignty. Sorry, suddenly just itchy eyelid. This idea of the sovereign woman, just really focusing on the sovereign woman, playing too small, making assumptions that we can't be met, and not spiritually but materially, that there's some sort of material lack, material speaking of embodiment, speaking of this idea of embodiment, that she's not quite, that she's struggling, because there was a lot of messaging that I was receiving personally, more dealing with people from the beginning of the work that I did here, where people just wanted me to fix things for them. And I realized that I've been doing a lot of people a disservice by just not dealing with this. There's nothing wrong here. I'm just excited about the edge of what I can create. And that's where we are now. There's no room for any of the other less than stuff. And we're really just in this sovereign space. And I'm very, very excited and blessed to share this with you at this particular time, where we're really shifting into a completely different way of being. We are shifting into this Aries space of focused creation, focused complete beginnings. You are the creator in your 0 point self, your now self. That's what we're dealing with. The sovereign self is the now self. It's present, it's divine because it's present in what is. It is connected to the fabric of reality, and it is existing in a state of flow with zero lack and zero resistance. This is the self that we're speaking to from within. And this is what this reading is about. Right, off we go. It's a 1 and a 3 and a 2. Oh, what's on the bottom? Oh, 5 of Cups. Interesting. This wasn't what I was expecting. Right. how are we translating this? I mean, it's interesting because the Five of Cups speaks of loss, speaks of focusing on what is lost in the process of realizing what we have. And maybe there's just a bit of a residue of this around, in that we have to let go of what we think we want collectively and individually in order to make room for what we want. This is speaking to the emotional experience of connection and love, but there's also an aspect of this in the feminine space, which is really speaking to a vacuum that attracts what needs to fill it. The feminine attracts. She does not act in order to create. She attracts. She pulls the material to herself. It's relevant to lose what she thinks is her sovereignty in order to gain your true sovereignty. This is kind of what this is speaking to. It might seem like you lose 3 to gain 2, but when we're operating with too much, the feminine has been working with too much. She's trying to do essentially the masculine and the feminine job both. She's holding all of that. That has to topple in order for her to actually reach balance, where it's her sovereign feminine, sovereign masculine in the Two of Cups sort of position, in the two, in the balance, heart to heart. Let's get the rest out. This is my temple spread. I realize it's a temple because it's a compass and a clock, which is a temple. All the temples, all the compass clock temples, which is they're aligned, and they're aligned, you know, to the compass points, and depending on where the sun is, it's a clock for the year, right? Oh, interesting. So I do a north, south, east, west. And then the central card is this idea of we got to lose what isn't ours to find what is genuinely ours. Right. North is the Chariot, speaking about relationship, speaking about forward movement, speaking about balance, and also speaking about time, because that Chariot integrates a huge amount of spiritual imagery. So this is speaking to civilization and what we have known across time in terms of how we're organizing ourselves, balancing the masculine and the feminine pieces. It's speaking to ancient civilizations because they are the nearest stories that we have in terms of organizing society, whereby the masculine and the feminine energies are really operating in a symbiotic way, feeding and fueling each other in a way that enables speedy growth and travel together through time. So that, you know, really is just relationship. We travel together through time. You know, that's, we're relating to one another. Chariot is obviously major arcana, but it does speak to, you know, a collective shift into a more quote unquote spiritual way of living. And these civilizations also had extremely powerful connections to a psychic world, to a heaven on earth, really. Well, they still separated heaven and on earth and the underworld, and the earth was kind of just a middle place. It's always been a kind of other place. In relationship to the underworld, it's better than or above or higher vibration. In relationship to heaven, it seems like it's less than. The truth is that this is everything is here, that everything is here. And the sovereign self knows that. The sovereign doesn't project anything outside of time or outside of space. This Chariot really speaks to your understanding that your highest self is working in relationship to and with others in pure flow. The 0 point self exists beyond time and space. To be truly present is to be the creator self. The 0 point self is the creator self because it's not responding to anything in the past. It's just creation itself. The sovereign self exists in that 0 point state. It is always a now self. The reason why it is sovereign is because it has no attachments to anything, any self that has been in the past, any self that could become in the future, any self that exists in any other dimension, like a higher self or a lower self or a shadow, so any of those selves. There's none of that exists. It's a central self that emerges from true presence in the 0 point. I had a session recently where the message came through about this, how we've been kind of understanding presence outside of any sort of meditative state where we're kind of very inward in our perspective. When we're kind of present in the world, that presence wasn't actually a 0 point presence, because that presence was always responding. So if I'm present, I'm responding to the environment. I'm present. Oh, look at the sky. Look at that's presence. And to a certain extent, that is. But when we move into 0 point sovereign presence, there's no responsiveness to it. You are pure creation. You are in the quantum. It's essentially a quantum self. You are not responding in present to what is happening. You are present you are in the process of creation. And that is not a logical self. It doesn't exist in time. It doesn't exist in space. This is what I'm trying to say. And that sovereign self, that's where it's at. The sovereign feminine is pure beingness. There is nothing to do, and there cannot be anything to do if there is no past and there is no future. But she is connected. This is speaking to connectedness and relationship and balance. So that sovereign self is the self, kind of ironically, paradoxically, that every single physical manifestation that is in alignment with you and yourself exists when you are that sovereign self. But it may seem illogical, right? But we are shifting up into 0 point reality. 0 point self is the true sovereign self. You are just channeling, so to speak, or you are pure creation. You are an individuated point in creation. That's it. Ace of Swords is what happens when you're your 0 point self. There is no confusion. The mind exists, logic exists, but only in clarity. There is only clarity in 0 point self. As soon as you try to place a self into past, present, or future within time, it loses all clarity. We could call this the ego. Essentially, it's a story of self, right? That has a beginning, has a middle, present, and a future. That is never going to be clear. The sovereign self only operates with the mind through pure clarity. And again, victory. It is victorious. Every thought that you have from this space works, is powerful, cuts through, just is extremely powerfully creative, because it makes space. And then what comes after that ace? The King of Swords. This is an embodied version of the ace. You hold the ace and you are embodied in your knowingness, and you can communicate. Not only can you be clear for yourself, you can communicate that clarity. And it is important that you do communicate that clarity, which makes sense when we're thinking about manifesting the relationships that are in alignment with the sovereign self. It's important that you speak from the sovereign self so that it can be responded to, and you can find those in the moment, in the 0 point now, that can meet you exactly where you are. Moving through these quickly. After King of Swords, Temperance, balance, flow, the most important thing. Soon as you find as though there is any stress that seems to be manifesting around you in your body, your nervous system, that's a kind of sign to just come back to balance. The sovereign self exists in pure flow. and no stress. You cannot be yourself in stress, which is why you cannot embody your true self, your authentic, sovereign, 0 point, present, powerful, most, I mean, I can't even find the words to express how powerful this is. He cannot exist. They, whatever you want to call, whatever we experience ourselves as, all through, cannot exist without that pure flow, no stress. The reason why that card comes after this is because if this is misconstrued, if we attach to this, then stress can be created. So how can you speak your truth, so to speak? The sovereign self speaks so that they may attract and create the clarity that they are. If there's an attachment to a response in time that the self wants to, for as long as you hang around waiting for the response, that's what we can call an ego self, but really it's just a story of a self, a narrative self. So we can call the 0 point self, we're coining a lot of terms today, 0 point self and the narrative self. The narrative self, there's nothing wrong with it. It just exists across time. If you're entering into any sort of therapy, you're dealing with a narrative self. If you're thinking about yourself in terms of time, it's a narrative self. The 0 point self has no awareness, or it can have awareness, has no attachment to a narrative self. If through speaking, storytelling, speaking in the moment, there becomes a connection to a narrative self, stress. So stress or no stress. So basically what it's saying is that King of Swords and speaking of truth, but really it's not truth, or speaking of clarity, has the capacity to create, if you notice that there's stress, then you're moving out of your sovereignty. This is the most important. It must always feel like this. It will feel like you're slightly levitating, like you're slightly floating above the world. And that's where it may seem like logic doesn't really exist, because you're in your quantum self. You're in the quantum physical world. But, it's flow, it's balance, it's the angel, it's the light, it's the lilies by the pond. But notice these 2 cups. The 2 cups that are emerging through this loss of let's just call it what was. This is really how those 2 cups manifest, through balance, flow, and the water. The sovereign self isn't the cups. It doesn't attach to the vessels. It is that water and that flow. I mean, it's both. It is the physical self, but it's also the flow point. The sovereign self must be relaxed. If you are not relaxed and you are enter into any stress whatsoever, and I don't just mean mental stress, I mean physical stress. Like if you are not comfortable, if you're not in the right environment, if you're not around the right people, which is not necessarily accurate, but how it can feel. If you're in a situation that creates stress, you cannot be your sovereign self. You cannot be your 0 point self. You cannot be yourself. So the body is the mechanism, if we're understanding how we're embodying the sovereign self. If it is under stress, and there's any stress in the body anywhere, you're out of, it cannot operate. The sovereign self only operates through pure present body, which is relaxed and secure and safe and easy in its environment. Then become the magical manifestor. That's where anything you truly desire, and this is the absolute key to manifestation, which people miss. If you're not, only the sovereign self can manifest. Only the sovereign self can manifest what it is for itself. If you're not in alignment and you try to manifest something that is not yours, is not you, in the manifested physical world. It will not happen. The sovereign self exists, as we've explained, outside of time. So the sovereign self will always manifest what it needs. There's no necessity to manifest anything in the sovereign self, because in the 0 point genuine creative self, everything is just created for that self. There is no reality that cannot be that which supports you. So there can be no desire to manifest anything, because there can be no lack, right? So, but this is speaking to this in terms of theory, so to speak, and understanding, which is that you can only have what is yours. If you're asking for or trying to manifest something that is not yours, you will not manifest it. This is a great gift from the universe, that you can't just manifest that which is not yours. I mean, it is possible to manifest that which is not yours. Well, it's possible to manifest, so to speak, outside of a sovereign self, but that is kind of part of the illusion, if that makes sense. I want to explain this through this idea that other people, how come they can just want something and it seems like they manifest it, but they're not like a good person? They don't, it's because their sovereign self isn't operating. They're not here to live a sovereign life, right? So the way they're manifesting, so to speak, their life, which is their sovereign life, but it's not. It's a life that is in alignment with who they are. But it's not this sovereign thing, because the sovereign is 0 point, and it's just pure. It's completely pure and connected to all that is, which we might call the divine, which is just love itself, and the frequency of what we would call love and yes, and just expansion and all these amazing things. That's where you live. And all these people, or anybody that's been, and it could be you as well, that might have been manifesting in that other way, that's not how it works in this universe now. So it's not going to be working for those people. It's not going to be working for you anymore. So even though it might seem like you have been getting things that you want, so to speak, or it's more speaking to other people that, oh, how come they don't suffer, or they kind of like manifest the material. There has been a little bit of history of people understanding manifestation, so to speak, not having any resistance with any self-worth issues, because they haven't really been connected to a sovereign self. And so those that have had the capacity to, let's say, manifest more, have been ones that have been disconnected from a sovereign self, because there's less resistance, because there's less presence and awareness. And therefore, there's a cleaner path of least resistance from thought, shall we say, or desire to manifestation. That is no longer the case. The sovereign self is the only self that's going to be manifesting anything, because we've moved into 0 point sovereign reality, as in a reality that is in complete alignment with the highest and best of all that is. That's the only reality in physics that exists now. So if personally, only what is genuinely for you, as in what makes your heart sing, thinking about the cups, this is the wish card, your dream come true, but it must be your heart's dream, your true heart's dream, your true heart's goal or joy, or manifested wish come true. Not anything that's actually not going to be for you, because then we suffer. Most of you have been on this sovereign, you're on this sovereign journey, whether you like it or not. The kind of messaging here is that we're all here now, and this is your time. So let's just refine, and don't be afraid, which is kind of in this temperance card. The angels are always kind of saying, don't be afraid, right? Of the power of this 0 point quantum self, sovereign self, right? Sovereign being the divine self manifested, kind of like slightly outside of the physics of let's call it 3D physics, right? And put it in the quantum, if that makes sense. I know you could translate it. There's some patience that's required after this 9. We've got this 7, which is looking back towards the 9, kind of thinking, it's basically saying that the mind can loop. If you're trying to manifest anything, basically, it's not going to work. If the mind loops in time and logic, this is not a time to be focusing on anything or vision boarding anything and trying to make it happen. Like, that is just not the way it's going to be. You have to be whole. And really how that is, how you want to set up that for yourself is just in terms of your environment and where your environment is, where you are in space and time. That's it. That you can feel the most flow and the most, you can feel the most flow and the most, you just pause this for a second. So what it's saying is that if you try to manifest in time and this idea of time, or I'm going to focus on this thing and I'm going to bring it into existence, that's not the way it's working. It's just you be creator. You are creator. You don't have to stop and try to create. You're in the process of creation. And in that, everything is just going to meet you where you are. To understand this through the feminine lens is to understand that this is not about action, it's just about beingness. And it is about movement through time, but it's about being yourself, hitting your marks and saying your lines, I call it, to be where you need to be, when you need to be there, following your joy, following your bliss, so to speak. And that's how you manifest everything. That could be you don't leave the house. It doesn't matter where you go. You can go there psychically. You just explore your experience in fullness and wholeness. Everything must come to you to meet you for your sovereign self, what that sovereign self needs. And we shift now a little bit. We're not quite there yet, but we're going to be moving into service there as well, because the sovereign self is of service. That's your service self. Everything that the sovereign self needs serves you as the individual and anybody else you need to serve. So to put it in a kind of crude story, say your sovereign self owns a restaurant and you feed people, or you can call it a soup kitchen, right? Because it doesn't necessarily have to be exchange in that way or a business in that way. It's more that you are creating something and you feed people, you serve people. Everything that the sovereign self needs to run that soup kitchen will be there. The food, the people, the resources, the state, like it will be given to you. Like there's no work. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to sit down and go, oh, I want to make the soup kitchen. It's just there. But it doesn't matter what your sovereign self is doing to serve. It could be anything, because it's not that that's a crude way of putting it, and an easy way to understand this idea of provision that you provide by your beingness. Make no mistake there. You provide through your presence of existence. You don't have to do anything. This is the biggest lie that the feminine has been in general. And I'm really mostly speaking to feminine, sovereign feminine here, that she has been told that she's to do something. So there's this lie that she has to do something. And that's not the feminine state. The feminine state attracts. She's the negative state. She is the black hole in her most powerful. She is the black hole in the universe. She sucks, everything is sucked into her, because that negative space, that vacuum is so powerful. So if you really think about this, if you're really manifesting that sovereign feminine, you are just being yourself. The more contained you can be, and the more accurate you can be in yourself, you suck everything to you. You are an attractor. There's nothing to do. You cannot manifest anything. This is also speaking to the material, to finances. There's nothing to do. If you try to do things, to create things right now, it ain't gonna work. Watch how everything manifests around you, because you are just understanding the value of your pure self here and now, enjoying the bliss of this moment. And you move that self around through life with no stress. and you watch how everything is drawn to you and manifested towards you, and just you are just a magnet to all of that stuff. The masculine is also part of this because the Emperor then comes up. This makes space for this sovereign masculine. This is kind of part of this symbiosis and how this is playing out. That masculine self only has room to step up and start to do what you want him to do when you are doing nothing. Like being, you're not doing nothing, you are being yourself, which is a lot. It's a lot. It's big. It's a big deal, right? It's a big deal to just embody that sovereign self and just know that there's nothing to do, that your beingness is an attractor. And I hope you can feel that there can be no lack because you are just constantly drawing to yourself. Then watch as that masculine energy and force fills you up, right? It brings to you, serves you. He is there to serve you, to pollinate you like a flower, right? So that's the design. And he shows up, and there's not even much to say about that. It's like, there he is, the Emperor, the guy we've been waiting for, wise, protective, powerful, intensely masculine in his beingness, just kind of there. This is the end of everything as you thought it was. Everything as you thought it was. The end. Gone, done. What was the quick one all the way through? I knew it's a different one. And then the Hierophant. This Hierophant is about structure and society, community, and also moving into the service piece, but really it's just it's talking about structure. Everything is structured from this that I just explained. Everything. We've been playing in this tower energy, and it is necessary, and it's kind of a little bit in this right? We got to let go of the things that aren't working. This is kind of saying, don't you worry, the structures are going to be built. This is the high priest. This is about building the structure, the divine structure that we can all live within. This is how it happens, through sovereign selves. And the feminine always goes first because she creates the space. The darkness, before the light, is the darkness that calls in the light. And it also kind of sucks in the light. It is so powerful, this negative force. The negative force brings everything to itself, and then it knows everything because it attracts everything to itself. And the black holes, they suck in light, right? So only she knows the light and can call it to herself. So the darkness and the negative space is really these are portals. So when the black hole kind of sucks everything into itself, it then transforms it, and the light moves through that to kind of become the spectrum. You want to think of those black holes as they are creative portals where the light becomes fractions of itself so that we can really know it. And to know the feminine, there we go, another little, if you can hear that siren. The siren's just going off all around this, so we make sure we know it's important and we need to be listening. That's how it works. There's nothing to be afraid of, because the reason why we've been afraid of this feminine force and wanting to control it is because it seems like it just sucks everything through and they disappear. But really what it's doing is it's a portal or a door through which the light can fractionate into different aspects of itself so that we may know it and have fun and play in the color. So that feminine, I mean, there's not really much more to say about that, but it's basically saying that that's how we build the structures. It's very, very important that you own yourself and you don't do anything, and you understand your pure value with no doing. It's extremely important. but don't be stressed about that at the same time, because then that's not going to allow you to to flow in. But anyway, that's it. Maybe we'll have some more. Just a little. Oh wait, I thought it was really short, but actually it's not that short. It felt like no time. It felt like absolutely no time to me. It's because that's what the sovereign self is. It doesn't exist within time and space. Anyway, there we go. That was a good one. Hope you got it. And I'll see you as soon as I see you. Hopefully soon. Lots of love.